If you look at life, anything in life, through the framework of money, you'll miss most of the picture.
This is a terrible thing to say publicly, but I'm saying it. I love being famous.
Good for you.
No, I mean, I really like I love it. I don't like being a celebrity, but I like being famous.
Well,
Does that make sense?
differentiate this for us.
Celebrity's a role. Celebrity is when you walk down a red carpet and they ask you what you're wearing. You stick your toe out when they take your pictures. That kind of stuff.
You don't do that.
No, I don't do any of that stuff. I don't even do interviews. If it wasn't like you, I mean, I wouldn't even want to say anything to anybody about what I'm doing because it's so gut-wrenching to me. Any job that makes you depend on the approval of others for your livelihood, it's a crazy job. Most people don't have to worry about whether they're liked or not. And for us, this is a consideration. The more you invest into yourself as a celebrity, the less of yourself you get to own.
I'll be 44 this summer.
Veteran, seasoned.
Yeah, and it'll be my 30th anniversary. I'm like really proud of that.
What made you get on stage at the age of 14?
The fear of death.
So
What?
you have been thinking about your own mortality.
Well, we're black dudes in America. So when I was in high school, my freshman year of high school, I talked about on an actor studio. Almost 600 kids my age got murdered in Washington, D.C. You can't be in an environment like that and that not affect you. Like, it made me want to just do whatever it was I wanted to do. I feel very lucky to get to be 44.
Right.
Which now I'm more ambitious and I'm looking forward to paying half price at the movies. But before that, I didn't know I was gonna live this long, and I think the fear of not doing what I want to do in life made me do what I want to do. I could say with a high degree of honesty, not to say I was never angry about it, but I don't think I was ever like bitter. I mean, by this point in my life, I wasn't bitter.
You would joke about it. You were angry about it, but not to the point where it f***ed with your head, but you would joke about it.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is no matter what happens to you, you got to keep going.
You got to keep going.
And bitterness is quite cumbersome.
Yeah, it's bad for you.
Right. So, jokes is a way of shaking that off or processing something with the alchemy of levity.
Yeah, holding grudges, bitterness, it's very bad for you. It doesn't ever help.
No, and now we're getting on in age. You know what I mean? When we were younger, it's fine to hold a grudge. You didn't realize how,
Didn't realize it was fucking with you. What is that expression? That it's about? Oh, it's about jealousy. The jealousy is the only poison that affects the container that's holding it.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But bitterness, the same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah, it's not good.
The man is the prophet Abraham and his wife. The word Zamzam that you guys speak Arabic literally means stop, because when it was commanded that this well would appear, the water gushed forth so much that the wife screams, stop, because it was so overwhelming. And they say that it's an inexhaustible well. The thing that comforts me about it is the idea that all of this is from a singular source, that this source is ultimately kind, and even though we may not understand the intentions of this source, they were all connected and bounded by it. Like Islam, as it's been presented in the public space, is such a narrow and dismissive view of a religious belief. It's a beautiful religion, like a beautiful religion. And the ideas in that religion are reflected in all the major Abrahamic faiths. You'll see these ideas in Christianity or Judaism, But the idea is that this place does mean something. It's a place where you come to learn, where you come to know. You get here knowing nothing, you get a head full of shit, and then you go on.
If you look at life, anything in life, through the framework of money, you'll miss most of the picture. In business, especially at this stage in our careers, you realize through the years, people play incentives. You know what I mean? That if they're incentivized a certain way, then that's the way they're going to behave. So what they want is never really surprising. How they get there is where all the surprises are. So I feel like I can forgive somebody for playing an incentive. It's disappointing. But what was so remarkable when I walked away from the show is that it was against incentive. So people couldn't understand it at the time. It was so much money. How could you do that? And blah, blah, blah. But if I had taken that money and finished the show, I would have got the money, but I might never have been the same.
My father's main thing He would never tell me what to do, which you got to think is a strange way to grow up. His thing was you have to be able to make decisions, which is a real counterintuitive way. The older I get, I understand why he raised me that way. He might help me sort through the pieces, but he wouldn't really put the puzzle together.
Did he tell you he loved you?
All the time. In fact, yeah, that's the thing in our family. I don't think I ever leave my children's presence without letting them know I love them. Because I never know what's going to happen anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's the most important thing, I think, for stability is you never see a kid who was abused with that kind of confidence, or a kid who was neglected with that kind of confidence. Just sometimes knowing that somebody cares inspires you and empowers you to be courageous. What I did for a living, I don't think factored into their lives in a way that people might think. Because we don't live in Hollywood. There's no paparazzis trying to get their picture. You know, the community protects them in that sense. And the other thing was, for most of the time I've been out here, my career was going terrible, so who cared? I knew people who walked past a roll of toilet paper because they knew they had a roll at home. So it was on our shelves longer than it was in other places. So I'm trying to tell you, community is everything, and fostering trust amongst each other, that's everything. Whatever you guys argue about the specifics, we gotta trust that there'll be a livable level of decency.
Mom. You have no idea what I put this woman through. If you had just given birth to me, that would have been more than enough. But the fact that you raised me and raised me well, we had a real oral tradition in our house. I knew the word griot when I was a little boy. A griot was a person in Africa who's charged with keeping the stories of the village. Everyone would tell a griot the stories, and they would remember them all so that they could tell future generations. And when they got old, they'd tell them to someone else. And they say in Africa, when a griot dies, it's like a library was burnt down. And my mother used to tell me, before I ever thought about doing comedy, she said, you should be a griot. And she'd fill me with every story of black life. You know, she's educated in African American studies, and she would let me understand the context that I was being raised in, that I'm being raised in a hostile environment that I have to tame. By the time I was 14 years old, I was in nightclubs, mastering an adult world. It was terrifying. Crack epidemic was going on, and my mother would hear gunshots outside and be scared to death. Maybe it's my son. But early in my career, if you remember, Mom, you used to sit in the club with me. She'd do a full day of work. You'd be back there falling asleep, just waiting for me to go on. She would watch my show every night. Do you know how long that car ride is home? How many of you have ever heard your mother say, jokes were a little too much tonight, son? I was a soft kid. I was sensitive, I'd cry easy, and I would be scared to fist fight. And my mother used to tell me this thing, I don't even know if you remember, but you said this to me more than once. You said, son, sometimes you have to be a lion so you can be the lamb you really are. Sometime around when I turned 40, I just decided that I'm gonna have fun. You know, like right now, you know, this is a weird thing to talk about, but after DMX passed and Black Rob, and, you know, now far more often people from my peer group pass away. And it just makes me feel like, it's not a midlife crisis, it's almost the opposite of that. It's like, look, I know I don't get to stay here forever. My time is limited and precious, and I don't take any of these things for granted. I don't take this money for granted, this platform. And I'm not talking about the fame platform, I'm talking about comedy. This genre, like, I make it, this genre, it's been so good for me. My social life, the people that I've met, the friendships that I've had, some that I've lost along the way, these memories we make, you know, as the years go on, I'm like, what a special, special way to live your life. I just want you guys to remember, you know, that right now there's this thing where ethics aren't what they used to be. This idea that people are trying to replace the ideas of good and bad with better or worse. And that is incorrect. You gotta keep your ethics intact, because good and bad is a compass that helps you find the way. And a person that only does what's better or worse is the easiest type of person to control. They are a mouse in a maze that just finds the cheese. But the one who knows about good and bad will realize that he's in a maze. So, that being said, I just hope that all of you guys transcend whatever you see as your obstacles, and that you live outstanding lives, and that you stay connected to your communities, because you have so much power there, and that you grow your communities and you diversify your communities, and that you don't let anybody tell you you can't or to be afraid.